From gadget guy to grotesque, Joe Rogan played Joe Gorelli, the MacGyver of the newsroom on NBC's hit sitcom News Radio, and went on to host the nasty and gnarly competition show Fear Factor for years. Now he's delving into his latest series airing on SYFY, Joe Rogan Questions Everything.
As a scientist, why do you think that this is all anybody ever gets, these imprints of this thing? It just seems that there's a lot of hunters in this area, there's a lot of camera traps that people set up on game trails. Why have none of these things caught a Bigfoot?
We're dealing with a creature that is much...
And joining us live this morning from Los Angeles is Joe Rogan himself. Good morning, Joe. How are you today?
Hi, Linda. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So I looked at some clips of your show yesterday. Joe Rogan Questions Everything. Would you say you're someone who's naturally inquisitive?
About dumb subjects, yes. I'm naturally inquisitive about things like Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs. For whatever reason, I always have been.
And you were kind of obsessed with Bigfoot. Can I say obsessed? For a long time.
Yeah, I would say obsessed with Bigfoot. I'd say that's accurate.
Okay, and that was the focus of your first episode, which premiered last week. You actually go looking for Bigfoot, and you try to get some extra answers. At this point, do you still believe in Bigfoot, or did you ever?
Well, what's interesting about Bigfoot is it absolutely, without a doubt, used to exist. It was a real animal. It was called Gigantopithecus, and as recently as 100,000 years ago, it coexisted with man. It was in Asia. It was an 8 to 10 foot tall primate that may have been bipedal, meaning it stands on two legs, which was essentially what people see in the forest today. So if there is a Bigfoot, maybe, who knows? But was there a Bigfoot? 100%. It absolutely was a real animal.
So you really know this information. I have to ask you, is this show anything like the old In Search Of? Do you remember that show with Leonard Nimoy?
I could never fill that guy's shoes. This is impossible. It's one of the greatest shows in the history of television. I loved In Search Of. But what it is we look at these subjects with a completely open mind, and we do it with stand-up comedians. And I talk to experts and believers and crazy people and try to make sense out of whatever the subject is.
Right. What's the one topic you haven't shot yet that you really want to get to the bottom of?
I would love. We haven't done a ghost episode. I would really love to do that. I would love to do one on crop circles. I think that would be a fascinating subject. I think there's a few of these things that are pretty cool that we could cover.
Well, we have some haunted buildings here in Kern County, so you should think about coming here to shoot it.
Bakersfield is haunted? There's parts that are haunted?
There are parts that are haunted, yep. Look into it.
Do you 100% believe that, or maybe? When you say that,
well,
is your tongue in your cheek?
No, they actually say that they are haunted. Do I believe it? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the problem. People always say, they always say, but if you ever watch those ghost shows, what do they find? They find nothing.
True.
They find like dust in the basement, and they hear a sound, and then they cut to commercial.
Exactly.
So, I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's very confusing. I'm not saying that ghosts aren't real. I mean, there could be unique instances where something actually, you see something and then it's gone, you can't measure it. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I leave that open. But mostly, people just love to tell stories. They love to tell stories about ghosts or Bigfoot or aliens. And when you get to the bottom of that story, at least 90% of the time it's nonsense.
Exactly. Let me ask you real quick, Fear Factor, you were on that show for years. How did you deal with being there with all those bugs and those rancid smells and everything else?
You got used to it after a while. I get used to it so much so that I became immune to throw up.
Oh gosh.
Here's a true story. My girlfriend then, my wife now, threw up in her car, and she had just gotten back from the gym and she had some wheatgrass juice, and she got sick while she was driving and was on the road and just couldn't help herself, and she threw up in her center console. And she was sad because she's like, I can't even clean it because then I'll start throwing up again. I was like, I'll clean it. Like, throw up doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
When I was a kid in high school, if someone threw up in front of me, I would start throwing up too. It's like the natural reaction. That goes away after 4 or 5 seasons of Fear Factor, where every week someone throws up in front of you. You just get used to throw up.
I bet. Now you're immune to it. Well, everyone can catch Joe Rogan Questions Everything tonight on SYFY at 10 p.m. Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. And he's actually touring now. I don't know if he's coming to Bakersfield, but he does stand-up comedy, so he's going all over the place with that as well. So.
You almost got him to come to Bakersfield with the haunted stuff there.
I'm trying.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good.